Hello again. Something called the Black Mental Health Manifesto has been issued, which is intended to help reduce the number of black people being sectioned in Britain, as well as the even larger number merely diagnosed with mental health problems. I give a link to this in the description to this video. It is based upon the idea that most psychiatric problems suffered by black people in this country are caused by white people. Of course they are. There are certainly more mad black people about than there are loopy white ones. People of black Caribbean heritage in the United Kingdom are 9 times as likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia as white people. Britain's Mental Health Act makes provision for people to be detained compulsorily in a psychiatric hospital if they are a danger to themselves or others. This is commonly known as being sectioned, alluding to the relevant section of the Act under which this action is taken. It had long been noticed that black people were more likely to be sectioned than white people. They are 4 times as likely to be sectioned and 10 times more likely to be the subject of a community treatment order, whereby they live outside a hospital but are still subject to compulsory treatment. The same phenomenon has been observed in the United States, of course. The reason for the large number of black people being detained or compelled to receive treatment under the Mental Health Act is usually said to be because of cultural differences or racism. Caribbeans, for instance, might use more florid or extravagant language to express their feelings and intentions, when a white person might say something along the lines of, "I could kill him," which is recognised at once as a meaningless idiomatic expression of irritation. Caribbeans sometimes say such things as, "I'm going to torch that man's car," or "I'll stab him up." These no more show an intention to harm somebody or cause damage than more traditional English phrases such as "I could murder" or "I feel like strangling." But it is claimed that psychiatrists, who tend to be middle-class white people, misinterpret black people and too readily take literally what they say. There is almost certainly something in the idea that doctor and patient are sometimes talking at cross purposes when an assessment under the Mental Health Act is made, and national or cultural differences might well exacerbate what would otherwise be perhaps a minor misunderstanding. This is not the whole picture, though. Schizophrenia is, at least partially, a genetic disorder. That is to say, a genetic disposition or risk might exist, and the disease itself develop under certain circumstances which are related to the environment. There is no one gene which tells scientists if a person will develop schizophrenia. It's not like having blue eyes. Instead, there are many weak genetic markers. The more of which are present, the more likely it will be that an individual will ultimately have schizophrenia. This is known as a polygenic risk score, or PRS for short. In 2018, the Journal of Psychiatric Genetics published a paper which revealed that the PRS for schizophrenia for those of African origin was very much higher than it was for white people from Europe or North America. So great was the difference between the PRS for different ancestral groups that in the case of Africans and Europeans they hardly even overlapped. There was some doubt as to how best to interpret these results. It is not necessary to go too deeply into the pros and cons of the argument. The fact remains that the genetic heritage of black people shows different levels of risk for schizophrenia than white people have, which may well shed light on why schizophrenia is apparently found more frequently in Britain and the United States among black people than white. It may not be the whole explanation, but it is certainly a part of it. Coming back to the Black Mental Health Manifesto, which has lately been launched, a number of specific tactics are mooted to reduce the number of black people being sectioned or diagnosed with psychiatric disorders. Yes. I hope that I'm not a cynical man, but I honestly doubt if these will do the trick. For example, one thing which is suggested is, and I quote, "The Department of Education should work with racialized communities to develop and embed an anti-racist and diverse curriculum that incorporates the histories and contributions of all racialized communities in the UK. I may be wrong, but I honestly don't think that teaching school children about John Blank, the famous black Tudor trumpeter, is likely to prevent them from developing schizophrenia in later life. Similarly, the government should develop and implement a comprehensive strategy to eradicate racism from society and appoint a cabinet-level minister to oversee this. It's a worthy enough aim, but I doubt it will have any effect on the polygenic risk score for schizophrenia, which happens to be so much commoner in black people than in white Europeans. I give references in the description to this video for those interested in reading more about this. As a white person, I honestly am not inclined to take any responsibility at all for the genetic inheritance of those whose ancestry lies in sub-Saharan Africa.